What is up, everybody? It's your boy Flash, aka Malachai36 from ALWT Gaming. I am here with Gravity-Mark Dose. What is up, man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Having a bunch of light fun over here. As you can see, it's like end of the day, so all the light's coming through my window. But you know what? It's all good. It's all good. Super stoked for the topic today, and I cannot wait to jump into this.
I cannot wait too as well. I mean, as anyone that's been looking at the thumbnail and been hearing any of the podcasts that we've been doing previously, it is a Final Fantasy VII Remake podcast, and you know we cannot have a Final Fantasy VII Remake podcast without the one, the only, Illis B Live. How are you doing, good sir?
You know, man, I'm not doing too bad. Definitely glad to be here, and especially stoked to jump into this discussion. It's been something that we've touched on so many times before, but for us to actually now have this discussion, I'm stoked, man. I'm stoked.
Yes. I cannot wait. I am very excited that now that both of you guys have fully beat the game, before we dive fully into this, how do you guys feel? After remembering the game, because it's been a couple weeks now, remembering the game, how do you guys feel right now?
I cannot wait for this expansion. I can't wait, because I have a habit. I'll say this: no matter what it comes to, whether it's like reading manga, watching anime, playing games, I have a really bad habit of just putting it off, like while the hype train's going. And then I get back on it right near when a part 2 starts up. So I'm just I guess I'm just kind of used to jumping onto something and then being like, oh shoot, yeah, there's gonna be an expansion coming out. And guess what's coming out? So I chose the perfect time again to jump on this, so that way I didn't have to wait too long. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep it in my library for a little bit. I gotta have the right mood. I gotta have the right mood. I gotta light the candles. I gotta have the aromatherapy going. It's gotta be a whole relax, play it. I found the right time, and holy crap, man! This game, this game blew my expectations out of the water. I already loved the demo when it first came out, and I really didn't know what else to expect from it. But after playing it, I was like, oh, this is a lot deeper than I thought it was gonna be. Because especially considering it was only covering the first part of the original game that took place in Midgard, I was like how much can they how much can they I was like how much story can they really cover there? It really wasn't too much, and it blew me away. The graphics for it were absolutely spectacular. The voice acting for it was on point. just the way that they told the whole story was really amazing. Like I'm into it, and I can't wait, man. June's right around the corner.
Yes, it is, man. Yes, it is. Real quick before we get on over to your aura right there, ALWT Live, I want to give a shout out to Mildewy Carrot inside the chat. What up, my fellow gaming nerds? What's up? Always a pleasure to have you, good sir. As you guys know, Mildewy Carrot's one of ALWT Gaming Cast. Please make sure you guys are following, subscribing to his channel, checking him out. Him and his bro does some pretty fun stuff, pretty feng shui stuff on Halo as they go through their Halo journey. Also, Mildewy Carrot, guess what? I bought a Switch.
You did it!
I bought a Switch. Yep. It's I got
we can be Switch buddies now.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Yeah.
Send me your friend code. Do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Come
I
on.
got you. Now it is on the way, but this time I have an actual order confirmation. Long story short, and I won't hold on to this too much longer because again, this is a Final Fantasy VII Remake podcast, not a Switch podcast. But but what it is that I ordered it before. The website kind of messed up a little bit, but I saw pending authorizations on my PayPal, so I went ahead and was just waiting a couple days for it to come through. Didn't see anything, and then so I called GameStop. I called PayPal. PayPal saw the pending authorizations. GameStop didn't see the order even existed. So in our world, that's called a ghost order. So I had to go ahead and get the pending authorizations. Yep. Had to get the pending authorization reversed. Other things were coming out. Other things were happening, and then next thing you know, I was just like, okay. We got the Nintendo Switch news recently. If I want to get a Switch, now is the time to do it because it's going to be really hard to get one here in the near future. I pulled the trigger. I got the Switch. It's on its way. And yes, Monster Hunter Rise, up in their chat. You already know what it is. It's going to be some of that, what's it called? Oh, crap. Marth and Roy and...
Smash?
No, not that. I mean, that, of course. Fire Emblem, yeah, that of course. But Fire Emblem's gonna be up on there. You already know I'm gonna be picking up. Well, you already know I'm gonna be picking up. Go ahead.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I tuned out for like a hot second, and I thought you said Rob, and so like I was like Smash, right? and then when you said Fire Emblem, I'm like, wait, Rob's in there?
Yeah, definitely getting some Fire Emblem because I've always been wanting to jump on that. Breath of the Wild, of course. You already know Mildewy. That's not even a question.
Breath of the Wild 2.
That's not even a question.
Let's do it.
Yes,
I'm so stoked for that, but that is not the time. We will get to that.
Yep, the time right now is to hear how ALWT Live is feeling after he beat the game in its entirety.
So, like Malachi, I got the game like right when it first came out.
Yep.
I jumped into it. I got a decent distance in, and then it slowed down just due to life situations and a whole bunch of other stuff that was going on. But the one thing that always had Final Fantasy in the back of my mind was not only Malachi, but several other people knowing how big of a fan that I am and that my knowledge for 7 was my opinion on the end. And so when hearing the news for that expansion coming out, I was like, okay, you know what? Now's the time. Now's the place. I need to hurry up and go ahead, bang this out. And with everything that they covered, the things that they decided to go in depth to, a lot of the symbolism, a lot of some of the special things that they did in order for what I feel that they're going to do, it was really nice. And I feel like they actually set up something for the end that, I mean, maybe to me it's a different kind of symbolism, but I mean, with what they did, I'm stoked to see what they do, especially with the expansion, bringing in some Dirge of Cerberus that everyone hated. So I was stoked when I saw Weiss. I was screaming. I mean, they got y'all got the video up when we were doing the state of play. I was fanboy. My jaw was dropped. So I mean, there's nothing more that I can say. June, where you at? I need it now.
Like, June, give me your number. Yeah, man. Needless to say, you guys already know me. Huge Final Fantasy fanatic. I am going to be kind of cycling through some questions that I want to really target towards you guys, primarily, just because, again, I mean, of course, I'll chime in and everything like that, but I'm very curious to see what you guys thought about the game in its entirety, the good, the bad, any critiques that you guys did have currently and everything like that. For me, there's only 2 games I can think of. Well, 3 games. So there's 3 games in particular that I got it at launch, and my goal was to beat it as quick as I can, but enjoy the story. And one game was Asura's Wrath. I beat that game by accident. Yeah, I know that sounds weird, but I beat that game by accident. Like, I was playing through 8 hours, and then I beat the game. And I was like, what? This is the whole game? And I loved it because it was an interactive anime. It was definitely fun, but it's just like one of those, like, okay, if this is everything, let me go ahead and just return it and get my full refund back. GameStop was like, $15. I was like, but I spent 60. Like, no, 15. So I
stop.
Yeah, so I ended up having it. That was the, like, kind of the older rule of thumb that they had before. But yeah, but I ended up beating that, kept it for a while until I started selling my games for gas money so I could come see my now-to-be wife.
Oh, so romantic.
But so that was the first game that I beat, like, really quickly. Probably the fastest game I've actually ever beaten. Then there was then I went ahead and actually had time off work so I could enjoy Final Fantasy 15. So I took off a week, I think maybe even 2 weeks for that, but I think it was like a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. And that game is beautiful. The fighting is awesome. I even like the characters. I did not like that it was so freaking short. It was easy. I didn't feel challenged, which most Final Fantasy games would have you be challenged. It was not long at all. It was probably a 20-hour game. And again, Final Fantasies are known, and correct me if I'm wrong here on ALWT Live, they're known for music, art, difficulty, and plot. Those are the biggest things that Final Fantasy is known for. Music, art, difficulty, and plot. And it had the music. It had the art. Did not have the difficulty, and the plot was subjective. That was that. So that's why in my head I'm thinking I was super hyped for Final Fantasy 15. I was very hyped.
That lovely 12-year wait.
Yeah. and I was like, yeah, like you spent 15 years, 12 to 15 years for this? Like, I was disappointed. I enjoyed the game. I didn't even enjoy Comrades that came later on, and we actually did that on a 9 to 5 segment previously. I had fun with that. I enjoyed the art style. I loved everything about the game except for the difficulty. It was too easy for the plot. And the plot itself, it was better if you watched Kingsglaive.
The movie?
Yeah, Kingsglaive. It was better if you watched Kingsglaive first because that goes right into the game.
Yeah.
But even so, it was just like, okay, this is cool, but at the same time, like you guys said, this is over 100 hours of gameplay, and it is, but 90% of that is side missions. And
you also have to take into consideration with everything that they did to try and fix that. You had the game being so big because of the weight that you had an anime series to get you familiar with all of the characters. You had that CG movie that was meant to get you involved with the king, one of the soldiers, and the significance of the princess aside from what you got from the anime. Mm-hmm. Then you had the episodes for each character that was supposed to be along with you. The tie-in knot was supposed to be the second set of expansions was for Arden and for Lunafreya. Lunafreya was supposed to finish everything out. And then you have the team that was working on everything was like, okay, guys, like, yeah, we're done. We put out all of these extra expansions for this. We're done telling your story. Mm-hmm. And they left. And now you have the official ending for this game in a book. So you've had this game literally touching all assets and facets of media and it falling flat on its face.
Yeah, and here's the thing: like ultimately, the whole story itself collectively is great, but the fact that they separated it, I didn't mind that they separated Gladio, Promptos, or Ignis. I didn't mind that because that actually gave me suspense for that. Everything else, why not? Why is that not in the game? How come we can't play this? So that was the issue that I have on 15. Again, I love the game. It's on PlayStation Plus collections. If you guys are able to upgrade to a PS5, you guys can try it for free. I think you guys will enjoy it. It is a great game. It's definitely worth a try, but it didn't live up to the 13, 14 year hype. 7 Remake is the last game that I actually took time off work. I beat it within a week, but that was not a week of me like casually playing. I put in some hours. That was my 9 to 5 for the past like week and a half. And I cannot tell you how amazing I felt at the end of the whole thing. And of course, we're going to talk more about that a little bit later. I want to give a shout out to because I'm a dork for the follow. Thank you very much again for that. Hope you're tuning in. Of course, you guys can tune in on any of our social media platforms: Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Patreon.com. Pretty much anywhere that you guys can think of our social media will live is where we would be at. More than likely, just type in ALWT Gaming and you guys can be able to check us out. If you guys can't find us on YouTube with ALWT Gaming, it is At Least We Tried Gaming, because at least we tried. Before we fully dive inside the gaming news, I want to go ahead and give you guys a little roundup table for our fantasy league for anyone that is currently following or curious to see what we do. There's about 6 of us in this league, and right now I'm safe. I'm glad to say, I'm really not glad to say. I'm actually pretty disappointed to say that I'm in last place, but that's because none of my games have actually dropped yet. So this is how it looks like, and for anyone that's curious about this. Fantasy Gaming League literally is like how fantasy football works. You go head toe and toe with each other, but in this case, instead of it being weeks, it is one consecutive league, and pretty much you earn points. The threshold is 70 points. It's on a 100-point scale. The threshold is 70 points. Anything below 70 points, you lose points for it. Anything above 70 points, you gain points for it. Anything that's at 70, you know to lose or you never lose and you don't gain. Millie Carrots inside the chat says you play in the late game, Malachi. I appreciate the support. So with that being said, for example, if a game I pick, let's say Monster Hunter Rise, comes out, it's a 90. That's 90 and 70. That's 20 points above 70. That means I get 20 points. But if I get something like, say, Cyberpunk 2077, and it comes down to a 10, then that's 10 and 70. That's 60 points below 70, so I lose 60 points. Thank God that will never, ever happen. But anyway, and then we also got these things called counter picks, to where I can choose a game, like say me and Gravity are against each other. He has God of War Ragnarok. I choose that as a counter pick. If that game does not drop, I don't lose points. He doesn't lose any, he doesn't get any points or anything like that. The counter picks also prevents the other players from dropping that game in case there's any delays or anything like that. But if he loses points from God of War Ragnarok, then I would gain said points. If he gains points, then I would actually lose those points because I have that as a counter pick. So it's kind of like a little Yu-Gi-Oh! Trap card, if you will. So here's what the list looks like, and then we'll get on to the Final Fantasy VII remake stuff. At Least We Try Gaming, aka ALWT Gaming, represented by me, has Horizon Forbidden West, Deathloop, Halo Infinite, Final Fantasy 16, Far Cry, and by the way, I'm hurt by that, Far Cry 6, Solar Ash, Dying Light 2, Call of Duty 2021, and I have a counter pick of God of War Ragnarok. Oh, I didn't even realize I actually really did pick that. Then you have Zaka TV, represented by It's the Nine Ball. He has on his calendar right now Resident Evil, Returnal, Warhammer 40k Dark Tide, The Medium, which got him 5 points. It scored 75 out of 100, so it's 5 points above 70. He got 5 points from that. Ruined King, League of Legends Story, Oddworld Soulstorm. Wow, I didn't realize that actually got a low score on that.
Told you.
You only got one. Yeah, you're right. You only got one. But I'm actually kind of surprised because Astro's Playroom. Oh, we'll talk about that in a minute. Guilty Gear Strive. He has Mario Golf Super Rush. And then he has a counter pick of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. That will obviously devastate him if that game drops this year. We got Carrot Patch Incorporated by Mildewy Carrot, who's inside the chat. He has Monster Hunter Rise, which got him an 88 which got him 18 points above 70. He has Kenna, Bridget Spears, I hate you. You have Gosara Tokyo, I hate you. You have Shin Megami Tensei 5. You have Psychonauts 2. You have 12 minutes. He has It Takes Two for 88 points as well. Yeah. and he has Stray. He also has a counter pick of Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, and he is leading the league right now, first place with 36 points. He's probably going to win the whole thing because 36 is my favorite lucky number. We got Fantasy Football, which is represented by Silent, which is a guest of the show. He has The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Hollow Knight, Silk Song, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, New Pokemon Snap, Exion Verge 2, Elden Ring, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and then Back 4 Blood is his counter pick. Sitting in second place is Illis B Live by yours truly. He has Bravely Default 2, which got him 78 on Metacritic. He has Nier Replicant version 1 point in a lot of numbers. He has Little Nightmares 2, which got him 83, so that's 13 points that had earned him. He has Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. He has the Dark Pictures Anthology House of Ashes. He has Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin. He has Tales of Arise. He has an open spot still, so he's playing his cards close to his chest, and he has Final Fantasy 16 as a counter pick. That's the reason why I was hurt, because he's a Final Fantasy fanatic, and he decided to hurt thy brethren. You feel me? You feel me? Anyway, going on to the next one. We have Ohio in the chat. Well, not in the chat, but we have Ohio, who has God of War Ragnarok. That's going to hurt me if it drops. I really hope it doesn't. He has Back 4 Blood. He has Humankind. He has Evil Genius 2 World Domination, which got him 7 points. So it was a 77 on Metacritic. He has Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance. He has 3 open spots. So again, he's playing the long game. And he has Halo Infinite as a counter pick. He's sitting in third place. So we got first place was Carrot Patch Inc. 36. We have second place LSB Live 20. We have Ohio at 7 points, and we have Zaka TV at 5 points. Me and Silent are currently sitting at 0 points, but again, that's because our games had yet to drop. Mm-hmm. How do you feel? Not only hurting me, but how do you feel about having the second place spot in our gaming league right now? We're actually. We're third of the way through. We're 4 months in right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think the initial games that I had picked, I was excited to pick them, but you guys left me with slim pickings because all y'all took the AAA games. So I could only get what I could get. So it wasn't that I wanted to hurt you for the 16. That's just a chance for me to actually catch up with y'all God of Wars and Resident Evil that I love that's about to come out real soon, and Monster Hunter that I love that's already been, so it was me fighting for some scraps because y'all was tearing everything else up.
All my life I had to fight.
All my life I had to fight.
You didn't leave him with anything, did you?
Yeah, he got some stuff. He got some stuff up there.
So the thing that I was hoping for is like in regards to like cult classics. Little Nightmares being a new IP that was received really well. Mm-hmm. I figured that 2 was going to do fantastic, which was the thing that I felt, if anything, when it comes to the Oddworld pick, that people would have tried to kind of correlate because the 2 almost work the same, but because Oddworld is so different with a really hard, like, you messed up and you have to deal with your mess up, as opposed to okay, reset, do this screen again kind of feel, that's going to be a thing that, because people, because we've kind of discussed it, and it's never really to like shame gamers, but it's like you have yours who actually enjoy the difficulty, and you have yours who just want to play. And Oddworld, even as a kid, I knew was an extremely hard game. If you got someone that was rolling with you killed, you had to deal with that person being killed, and you had to roll on. And not a lot of people want to, go back and retry that so many times, it gets to a point where it's just like, okay, it's a drop. And Oddworld, with it being, I think the thing that also hurt, because I looked on the store. With me having a 4, it is not free. People who have a 5 have it free. So people who have it available, if they know nothing of Oddworld, they really don't care for it. It's a free game, but they're not really going out of the way to play. People who know Oddworld and wouldn't mind playing Oddworld, you have to pay $40 to play it.
Well, not necessarily. Because you can still add it to your library. I mean, yeah, you can't play it right now, but you can still actually add it to your library. And
no, with me having the 4,
you can't. You have to do it on your phone app.
It's like the one workaround that you have to do.
Yeah.
It's like if you have the PlayStation app, you can actually still go to the store. And the thing that I also noticed with that is that like they don't advertise it as like being like a free plus game. You have to like actually like search for like the name of the game, and then it's like, oh hey, you have plus. Like, do you want to add this to your library? I'm like, sure, but you made it really hard for me to find. Like, are you trying to not give this out for free?
Well, see, so I mean, like for me, like not even knowing about that workaround, that's me looking. Well, it looks like I gotta give up $40 in order for me to play. And then even with me, with that being free, going around that workaround, now I still have to wait for that system in order for me to play it, so I still can't give that positive review.
Yeah, and you're right. And now, ultimately, with that, majority of the Metacritic stuff is going to be, at least what they count as, is going to be the actual critic stuff. I know that you do implement some of the gamers reviews, people that actually submit their reviews in, but ultimately it's going to be what their critics think about it. So like critics love Last of Us Part 2. They love Astro's Playroom. They love like stuff like that. Horizon Zero Dawn. So,
and these critics ain't really gamers, man. Get out of here.
I'm you know what? I'm still butthurt with The Last of Us Part 2. Like, and again, I still haven't even played it, so like I'm like butthurt. Like, even though I haven't played it, I'm just like, you know what?
I mean, I have an opinion. I have a really quick opinion on that before we.
I have a crap opinion.
Well, no. So what I feel is the way they should have worked Last of Us 2 is they should have solely kept it Ellie's story. I haven't played it, but I know that it involves the character that people hate named Abby. I think if anything, it should have been solely Ellie's story going through.
It actually is.
No, because I know you go back and forth between her and Abby.
Yeah, but you primarily play Ellie, primarily.
I think if they never would have included anything in regards to Abby, had Abby as DLC and her have a full-fledged story on her own end, the game would have been much better received. Because if we're not controlling the person who ultimately is going to be killing, Joel. Sorry for spoilers, but I mean, the game's been out for a while. But if you weren't the person who was going behind playing this person that you don't know, and still having to involve yourself with this character, who ultimately ends up killing someone that was beloved to you, if it was solely you playing Ellie, this is blindsided to you. You have no idea what any of this is going on, no action involving her at all. I think it would have been much better received because you're not controlling that person. Now with this DLC that comes out that has this person in, you're interested because this is the person that you've been fighting against, and you don't know the motivations. You just know that she wanted to kill Joel. Why was her reason for killing Joel? Then it goes, oh, well, now she was part of this group, and she's been surviving because Joel did this. Oh, but that's tacked on DLC. That is backstory that now comes full circle. You have a better appreciation for this story because this was barred off. This wasn't something that you had access to, and you had to deal with that, dealing with your beloved characters and having to go back and forth between the two. Because you already have all this hatred for this character killing a beloved character.
So I will say that you guys would have to play it, because I see where you're coming from as far as someone that hasn't played it, but when you play it, you would see why it's set up the way it is. You guys will actually see why it's Game of the Year. For me, my Game of the Year is Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's my Game of the Year.
But see but I've talked to a whole bunch of people who have played it. And the way with me explaining how I did, they agreed they would have much rather it be that character being DLC and her being involved in that fashion than it being done the way it was.
All right. But as we're now diving inside of this, we just got a little warmed up. Let me go ahead and go through this. So Final Fantasy VII Remake, gentlemen.
Animal Crossing, Game of the Year goes Animal Crossing.
Game of the Year goes Animal
Final
Crossing.
Fantasy VII Remake. Final Fantasy
Do
VII
it.
Remake. So, Final Fantasy VII Remake has 18 chapters. All right. Here's the name of each chapter. We have Chapter 1, The Destruction of the Mako Reactor 1. Chapter 2, Fateful Encounters. Chapter 3, Home Sweet Slum. Chapter 4, Mad Dash. Chapter 5, Dogged Pursuit. Chapter 6, Light the Way. Chapter 7, A Trap is Sprung. Chapter 8, Budding Bodyguard. Chapter 9, The Town That Never Sleeps. Chapter 10, Rough Waters. Chapter 11, Haunted. Chapter 12, Fight for Survival. Chapter 13, A Broken World. Chapter 14, In Search of Hope. Chapter 15, The Day Midgar Stood Still. Chapter 16, The Belly of the Beast. Chapter 17, Deliverance from Chaos. And Chapter 18, Destiny's Crossroads. So those are all the chapters that's currently out right now for Final Fantasy VII Remake. And just throwing it out there, all right, Game of the Year goes to Animal Crossing. You guys saw that from Mildew Care inside the chat. But anyway, just throwing it out there for anyone that's currently watching. If you guys plan on playing Final Fantasy VII Remake and care about spoilers, this might be the time to mute it. Because this is going to be completely spoiler reveal, I should say, from 7 Remake, from Crisis Core, from 7 the original, because I want us to have a full in-depth conversation about this for like the next 30 minutes. I got questions I want to throw at you guys. I want you guys to hear your guys' thoughts, and I don't want you guys to have to feel like you are filtered because of spoilers or anything like that. So right here, if you guys are remaining here right now listening to this podcast, you have been warned. So, first and foremost, my first question to you guys, going to Final Fantasy VII, and you can include Remake in this too, and Advent Children, and pretty much anything that's in the Final Fantasy VII universe. All right,
like and this, and Advent Children, and Crisis Core.
Who is your all-time favorite Final Fantasy VII character? I'm going to start with you, Gravity.
Zach. I'm hopping on the Zach train. Like, that's not even a question. I love Zach's character. Like, Crisis Core was definitely like one of the games that really got me actually into Final Fantasy VII in general. Like, growing up, like, and I hate saying it like that, but like when I was growing up, like I didn't play Final Fantasy too much. Like, I was more of a Pokemon kid growing up. And it was my cousin that was actually the one who played Final Fantasy VII like all the way through, like several times over. Like he and his buddy Mikey, like they had the old school like just stack of discs that they had like for the PlayStation 1, and they just kept playing it over and over. They had to, I think like there was something up with his PS1 too, where like it just like I guess they had to like keep it running. So like I guess that they just weren't at like a good save point. They would just like keep it running all night and into like the next day, so that way they could just keep playing it.
Possibly no memory card or damaged memory card.
That might be the case. But like it wasn't until like I got around to Crisis Core where I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like this is like a prequel to it, because like he had already told me at that point like several like big key plot points, so I was already roughly like spoiled already for the series. But I was able to pick up Crisis Core. I played it all the way through on the PSP. I loved it. I nearly cried at the end. A really good friend of mine did cry at the end when he watched it, and it got me really into it. And then I played Final Fantasy VII like all the way through, like the OG one. And at that like point, it was really just open from there. And even again, still on the PSP, when I played Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, who makes an appearance in that? Zach does. So like I love Zach. I love Zach so much because it's not just like
that they did with Kingdom Hearts. Just to
I loved that.
The before Sora, you get Zach instead of Cloud in the third place. I love that.
I loved it so much. Like when I saw him pop in there, I was like, yeah, oh man, darn it. Sorry, you'll find out later, Zach. Don't worry. But like it in a lot of ways, like his character, like it really is just like an origin story, not just for like how Cloud got to where he was, but it's also like an origin story for the Buster Sword, which is like arguably like the most iconic thing that came from the series. And I mean, if it tells you anything, like I have it right here. Like I still have my OG Crisis Core right here.
I can run to the other room and get mine.
I just loved his character because like it was very like the way he contrasted Cloud was very striking to me, because Cloud was a very like stoic. He's very quiet. He doesn't really talk much. He's just kind of like let's just get to the point. Whereas Zach is a lot more laid back. He's a lot more happy. He's a lot more happy-go-lucky, and he just enjoys life a lot more. And especially like watching the end of Crisis Core, like which I really thought you could win at first.
Oh my god!
I tried so hard. I was limping everywhere, and I was just thunderblading it like everywhere. That's all I could do was just use Thunderblade. And I was just like, come on, I'm just trying to one-shot all of these guys, and eventually I'm like, can I not win this? I don't think I'm supposed to win this. I'm like, what is this? This isn't fair.
Funny thing for me on that was, I don't know how I did it. I was extremely underleveled. Like, during the very final dungeon before, like, the Genesis battle, whatever. Mm-hmm. I managed to beat it. I managed to beat that final dungeon, beat everything, and it gets to that exact fight. I killed all of the soldiers. I don't know how I managed to kill all the soldiers. Like, I'm slashing when it gets to like that bleak moment, and he's trudging, and like I'm still managing to do like a flip. Him doing the slash, bro. I'm like cure all, potion. Like I'm wasting all of this just so I can survive, and I kill all the soldiers, and then my screen fades to black. And hearing those sounds, I'm devastated. You're gonna make me cry thinking about it.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's why, like for me, like Zach is my all-time, like at least like with this, like he's my favorite character. Like there's just so much with him that the way that they presented his character was just something where it's just kind of like, in order for Final Fantasy VII to be the masterpiece that it was, this character has to die. So it was just really sad. But at the same time, you're like, you know what, we're getting something really beautiful out of it with Final Fantasy VII, and then now going into Final Fantasy VII Remake with what we saw with Zack and that, like that completely blew my mind too. So now I'm just like, what?
Well,
like,
save that, because I have a question for later. I have a question.
I'm saving it for later.
Yes,
but yeah, like that, and again, just I love that it's also an origin story for the Buster Sword. Mm-hmm. You know, where it's just like Cloud just carrying around this ludicrously large sword, and you're just like, how is that practical? Why is he doing that? Is his arm okay? Does his shoulder ever pop out of place when he tries to take it off? Like what happens? And with Crisis Core, you get to see kind of like where the Buster Sword came from, and then you kind of like saw the events as to how it ended up with Cloud, and so. And just in terms of Final Fantasy VII, just their world in general, I got it. It's got to be Zack for me.
Okay, who would you say would be your least?
Oh, jeez.
Man, if I don't hear one name come out your mouth, I'm slapping you.
My answer might actually shock you. But
that's a hard question though. I mean, like, which character did I not like the most?
Mm-hmm.
I gotta think here.
Yeah, if you want to think about it, we can come back to you on that one.
Yeah, because I don't think I disliked any character. Because if anything,
well, are we going to simply characters that are in play, or characters that are just key points in the story in its entirety?
All right, so it's the whole universe.
Okay. Yeah, I got my answer.
Okay. You know what? No, I want to let Illis be live go, because he's raring to go, and I'm over here you're not gonna get anything out of me right now. I'm more curious as to what Illis be live has to say.
Yeah, go ahead, Illis. It's on you.
Okay. Well, character most hated, Hojo. Period. hands down.
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that one, but yeah, okay. I mean, I agree. I agree. But yeah, I don't blame you one bit.
There's so much bad in this universe that has happened because of that man. So many people have suffered because of that man.
Yeah.
Vincent's tragic story because of Hojo. Sephiroth even becoming the person who he is because of Hojo.
Mm-hmm.
Genesis and Angeal suffering the way that they did because of Hojo. The reason why Cloud ends up the way he is because of Hojo. Zack, the entire soldier program because of Hojo. The people that you end up fighting in Dirge of Cerberus because of Hojo. Like Hojo.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Hojo, I hate that man. I hate that man.
Well, who would you say now? Because I'm feeling all the energy right now. Who would you say would be your favorite then? Who is your all-time best in the entire universe of Final Fantasy VII Remake? Who's your all-time?
I definitely enjoy Gravity's answer with Zack.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going Tifa.
Okay. Okay.
Zack is a big thing and semblance of hope. I love his mantra: embrace your dreams and whatever you do, protect your honor as soldier.
Yeah.
That's a irrefutable quote that you can never forget. But I feel Tifa is a strong power of resilience in her story. Everything that she goes through, and the fact that she is still as down-to-earth, kind, caring, and wanting to help people as much as she can, despite everything that she faces.
Yep. I agree.
So I'd have to go Tifa.
I definitely agree with you on that. Throwing it out there, Mildew here inside the chat says Tifa and Aerith. I'm assuming that's in reference. Well, I know he's probably watched some of the movies and stuff like that, but also probably reference for Kingdom Hearts. Those are great choices, Mildewy. S. Kilt says, "What up in the chat? It's good to see you, good sir. How are you guys doing, and what are we talking about?" So we're doing great. We're doing fantastic. Today is actually going to be a Final Fantasy VII Remake podcast. These two gentlemen, I beat the game last year. These two gentlemen have beat it within the coming month. So now we're just having our little unrevealing, kind of the book club version of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, having a discussion about it, how we felt. There's definitely going to be spoilers on here, so I'm not sure if you're planning on picking up Final Fantasy VII Remake for your PS4, PS5 if you have one, or later on when it comes to PC. So if you are wanting to avoid spoilers, you might want to mute it. You can watch it. But there's definitely spoilers in this discussion for the whole Final Fantasy VII universe. So just want to give you guys fair warning on that. For me, most hated was actually Cait Sith. I did not like Cait Sith. I didn't like him one bit.
So hold on. So when you say Cait Sith, are you literally talking about the mechanical amalgamation, or are you saying that you hate Reeve?
No, it was the mechanical. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, like later on, like you ended up finding out this whole thing, Cait Sith, and it was just really weird that they utilized Cait Sith in the remake too. Like, and that was one of the things that I thought was kind of funny, is that in Easy Allies they have mentioned that when the plate is falling on Sector 7, like as it's falling, you see this little cat robot like get to the scene, which confused a lot of people, and then the fact that Reeves had taken the time to control this robot to make it look like he's kneeling and showing emotion. Like, it's just like, like, who would ever do that? So it was just kind of interesting that was the case.
I mean, you've never done that? Like, when you're playing a video game, like, you just, like, roll up to, like, a scene, you just kind of, like, crouch down a little bit. You're just like,
but that's
oh,
the
no.
thing. It's a video game. This is real life for them. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, oh, my goodness, let me go ahead and kneel down and cry. Like, who does that? So... yeah, it was just kind of a unique standpoint, but I didn't like. A lot of people didn't like Yuffie in the original game. I didn't mind Yuffie. I didn't like that she stole my materia, because that ended up happening. I didn't like that, but I actually didn't mind Yuffie. It was Kate Sith, the one that actually annoyed me more of. My favorite character, of course, Team Tifa all day. Love Tifa. That's my jam. That's my girl. But I also, and I'm actually kind of surprised this wasn't on there. For me, if I think about Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I had to think about my favorite character aside from Cloud, I have to go with Red 13. He was always in every single one of my parties. The minute I can get Red 13, like, of course I would swap out so that way I could try to level up with other people and get their specials and all that good stuff. But ultimately, my main squad was usually Vincent, Cloud, Red 13. That's normally how my squad was. And yeah, and even in different variations of that, like when I had to feel like I had to split up my my squad because you had to go to different areas or whatever like that, I would always take Red 13 and give him like to Tifa and Yuffie, or Aerith and Yuffie, or Aerith and Tifa, or something like that. Sid and Kate Sith. Like I would always mix it up like that, and it was just literally, it literally was like Red 13 is my dude. So if I had to go, I guess in that sense, if I had to go female, Tifa all day, no comparison. That's my girl. That's my jam. And all day, every day. If I had to go male, Cloud. But if I had to go creature, Red 13.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I had to think about that for a second. But yeah, but if I had to go creature, Red 13. Red 13 was one of the highlights. He's actually the reason why I selected him as the thumbnail for today's podcast. So there you go. That's one of my jams. He's my dude. So what parts do you guys think, for Final Fantasy VII Remake only, what parts do you think had really elevated the game for you? The whole experience. Before you go ahead and answer that, S-Guild says he doesn't really care for Final Fantasy, so he's good. I highly recommend it. I think you would enjoy it, but hey, to each their own. I just finished Ghost of Tsushima today and cried my eyes out. I don't blame you. That was a fantastic game. It was great. It was great. And they're
making a movie.
Yeah, they're making a movie of it. It's fantastic stuff. But back to the question at hand. What do you guys think had elevated the game of Final Fantasy VII Remake for you? Going to start with you, Illness Be Live. Oh, actually, you know what? Real fast. We didn't get your least favorite, Gravity. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, though. Because now I gotta pick something different. Because I was gonna say Kate Sith.
Oh, you used to choose Kate Sith.
Yeah, you can still pick.
You know what? Fine, I'll still go with Kate Sith. Because I at the very least, like with Kate Sith, like I really just didn't resonate with his character. Mm-hmm. Like it was just kind of like he was just kind of there. Like because I did recognize him when he was in the remake. And I was actually really confused, and it's funny that you mentioned that. You kind of make that point.
I think for that was just the nod to anyone who played the original.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like that nod. Like I like that they had it because going through and playing it, you're just kind of like, what is he doing there? Because I don't think he was there the first time, was he? Because that definitely wasn't in the original,
mm-hmm.
But I just at the very least with him, I just didn't really resonate with his character too much, and part of me to this day sometimes I even go back and forth with Sephiroth, because
really?
Even Sephiroth because sometimes I know Sephiroth's whole story, mm-hmm. I know why he kind of loses his marbles a bit, but sometimes sometimes I look at it and I'm like, oh, that's a really good, that's a good story. And then other times I'm just that's kind of a dumb reason for blowing up the world with the meteor, isn't it? but that's just kind of my opinion there.
Okay.
But
okay. So on here we have S-Killed saying maybe I'll try Final Fantasy. I have one of them. Again, highly recommend it. Even if you don't want to buy it yet, if you have a PS4, just get the demo. Try the demo. See how it resonates with you as far as the gameplay goes. Because the story is not lacking. I think you're going to definitely enjoy the story. But yeah, just if you want to check out the gameplay, it's definitely evolved. Most people back in the day, they couldn't get onto Final Fantasy, any of the Final Fantasies because it was turn-based. I was one of those people. I couldn't get into turn-based stuff outside of Pokemon. I just couldn't do it.
All
But
about it.
after 10, but by the time that 10 had hit, I was already a full believer. But after 10, that's when they started switching it up a little bit with 12. Then they got even a little bit more different with 13, and then 15 came out, and that was a whole different thing. I liked 15's fighting style. This is top of the line. On here, Incubus, Icinobuns. I apologize if I butchered your name because I very much think I did. Incinobuns. I like the extended wall market section in the arena. Yes, those are some great points right there. I think I have Final Fantasy VIII. That is a fantastic. That's a great one. That is a great one. I was about to say 7. 7 might be one that's a little bit harder to get into. 8 is fantastic. I don't know which.
I don't agree with that. But that's
you don't think that 8? No, I'm not saying 8 was better. I'm not saying 8 was better. I'm saying
in regards to getting into, I don't fully agree. And the only reason, I guess that is more, I guess like 7. I think like now, like, yeah, it's like futurized in a whole bunch of ways, but it's just like there's a lot of people that you can look at and you can be like, yeah, I can see that being in a person now. 8, I can't see that. I see that more in 7 in regards to relatability and that usually being able to help someone get into something, as opposed to 8. 8, especially when it gets into like you going into your dream world segments, and that just kind of like, okay, where am I at now? Like, as opposed to 7, which is like really forward. You know when you're going to be going into something because they preface it. 8, like, people just be like, you can just be running around the dungeon, just, I'm feeling tired.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, like, I am referencing the OG ones. That's yeah. So like I that one because I was actually different. I couldn't really get into it, but to actually correction to all of this, S-Kill says which was the one that was free on Plus last month. That's 7 Remake. That's actually the newest one that's out right now. So you actually have access to the newest one if you already added it. You're already in good hands. That's probably the best PlayStation Plus free game that's ever dropped. I'm envious of you, man. Enjoy it for your first time. I think you're gonna really enjoy it. So real fast. So that was that. So we have two Kate sis. We have a Hojo haters over here, and now we're on over to what parts do you think had elevated Final Fantasy VII Remake? So back to you, LSB Live.
So elevated. I think, at least for me, and this is going to be, I wouldn't say exactly on the darker end, but I'd say it'd be one of the darker aspects. The climb up the wall for you to get to the Shinra building, because for me, on the original climbing up the wall, I didn't see destruction. It just looked like there was a whole bunch of trash in the back, and I was making my way up some like random debris. And it's like me making my climb up the wall was just like this mini game. Actually being able to make my ascension and literally getting to look over the destruction of everything was like, this is much bigger than what I would have ever anticipated. It's like an outer body experience of you actually realizing, because like even with the cutscene, it's just like, yeah, that's a plate, and you see the plate. But climbing up that wall, you get the full realization of this large section of this rotten metal pizza, has literally come down on a group of people. I mean, and you just coming up to see some of the people, the place is starting to shift from what is actually still there. That I don't know. For me, that just like that was like a, I can't even say it wasn't a coming to Jesus, but I mean, woo boy, like like I don't know, like my eyes were wide, and it just it was a subtle detail for something major that wasn't comparable in the original for me. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say the wall was really big.
That's an elevating point for you. I heard that. What about you there, Gravity-Mark 2?
I would have to say it was probably for me on a lighter note, but before I do that, I do want to say I felt the exact same way ALWT Live about that moment, because I felt the exact same way doing it too, because you get to look around, you get to see the destruction of everything. You get to see like just how vast like that entire sector was, and how much of that is just gone now. And it just, even going off of like that first time where you're actually running through like Sector 7, like now like all of that's gone. Yeah. It's not coming back. And it really highlights like just how many people were affected by this. Yeah. For me, on a lighter note, the like probably like the thing that I probably liked like the most, that enhanced it for me, was honestly, and I didn't think I was gonna like this, it was all of the side missions. It was all of the side missions that they had in there, because like the OG was really kind of straightforward. It was just like, all right, so go here, now go here, go here, go here, go here, cool. But I liked that they fleshed out, first of all a lot of the side characters, because I didn't think they were gonna touch them.
Oh my god!
So I thought it was just gonna be like just the like the original game. It's like, no, like they have like fully dedicated voice actors who are actually they're actually characters now, and that they're not just like, hey, we're here for this one thing, all right, bye, you're not gonna see us again. Like, I like that they did that, and because of all the side missions, it, even though like the world like wasn't like super big, it made it feel a lot bigger than it actually was.
Yeah, it did.
And I've said this in the past, and again, like I keep bringing it up. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. The combat in that game's fun. It's cool that it's kind of like an open world Dragon Ball game. But the thing that always kind of annoyed me was that it just felt empty. Like they had like random NPCs that would like be like here and there that like might say something helpful, or if you're like in some of the cities, like it's just people walking and they just don't do anything. It just felt very big and very empty. Whereas like with Final Fantasy VII Remake, they have all of these little side missions that really just breathe life into the world around you, where you're not just seeing the main cast. Like you're seeing like the little girl in Sector 7, like who has all the cats. Mm-hmm. You're seeing the kids that are in Sector 5 who have that secret hideout in the back, like that are all in that orphanage. So and even when you go behind the Honeybee Inn, like you run into one of the teachers at the orphanage who works at the Honeybee Inn. And so it's just like it adds so many layers to the story, where the story in general, just even if you just ran from story point to story point, it's still a good story. But doing all of those extra side missions just made it feel like that much better. Like it felt like a real breathing world with real breathing characters, instead of just random NPCs that you would just kind of walk past and just kind of be like, all right, cool, whatever. Because like a lot of the characters,
this is over there.
Yeah, because like, and I started to kind of feel that, like even for the random NPCs that really wouldn't do much, I was like, oh hey, like what's up? It's that random cowgirl NPC. What's going on? Bye. So like that for me, like it was just the side missions. I really liked it. I usually don't I try to get a lot of side missions in games, but I don't typically do all of them. This one, I made sure I went out of my way to do every single one.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the same way when it comes to side missions and stuff like that. Like I find myself start doing it at first, But then, like, eventually, especially finding out how big the game may or may not be, like, it will determine if I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah, this one, it felt like I felt like a good obligation to complete it all the way through. Like, I platinum Ghost of Tsushima before I platinum Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I feel like I need to go platinum Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, I'm very, like, that's just the type of... Normally, when I play a game through the first time, unless it's something like Dragon Age or something... I played it through. I'm done with it. I might come back to it again years later, but that's usually it. 7 Remake, I'm going through it right now on hard. Like, I enjoy it. Yeah, I enjoy it so much, and it's just great. I think one of the things for me that elevated the game literally was the entire pacing of the game, and I say that because pre Final Fantasy VII Remake, I had no idea what Square Enix was doing. I was like, you're telling me that on a game when I was a kid that took me 3.5 months to beat, the only part that you guys are focusing on is the first hour of that type of gameplay.
It's like the game that was 3 discs, and you're focusing on the
10%. 10%, yeah, and it's just like it didn't make sense to me. It literally did not make sense to me. And you'll see other people saying that it takes you about 5 hours, 6 hours to beat, whatever like that, 8 hours. I went back and played it again. It does not take you 5-6 hours to beat the first part of Final Fantasy, or to get out of the first part of the Final Fantasy VII original.
If you know what you're doing.
Yeah, even if you don't know what you're doing.
No, because I know people who don't know what they're doing. They've had to start many times. So.
Yeah, it never took me. I think at max, even when I first was doing it was like 2 hours. Never took me 5 hours. And mind you, this is my first time kind of being introduced into a RPG setup, a JRPG, mind you, at that. So it never took me more than 2 hours to get out of it. Out of the beginning portion. I mean the beginning portion. I mean literally, you just climb the gate to get out of Midgar. That's pretty much all I'm saying. And so that kind of boggled me right then and there when I heard people saying it takes 5 or 6 hours to get out of that part. I was like, wow, I'm not that advanced of a gamer. I know I'm not, but I was able to get out there a lot quicker than that. But then on top of that, like if you know what you're doing, it takes you an hour 10, hour 15 minutes max. So they were going to focus on just that portion. And I was like, how in the world is this going to work? Like, how is this? What are they going to do? Are they going to mess up one of my favorite games of all time? Are they going to mess it up? Last year, it dropped. I played it. They said, you know what, Flash? Shut up. We got you. And that's exactly what they did. I loved every bit of it. It didn't feel like it was dragged out. It didn't feel like there was anything missing. It felt like that this game was intended of how original was to do. We just weren't there technology wise. That's how it felt. It felt like literally what we were playing is exactly how this was supposed to look. This is how this world was supposed to feel. This is how it's supposed to be. Yada yada yada. You know what I mean? I can't tell you how hype I was when you're in the elevator and you see Barrett just freaking out, like, yeah, I know you feel the Mako in pain, and Cloud's just like, you can hear that, and he's just like, yeah. He's like, dirty street. He's like, get help, like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Like it was showing those types of characters. They really touched on the personalities because again, kind of funny games talked about this too as well, and I agree with Tim Geddes on this. Is that a lot of people, like a lot of reimaginations of Cloud is like he's like this goth pretty boy type scenario. No, in the original, Cloud was a dick. He was a jerk starting off.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Like so. Thank you. So that's what I like that they absolutely nailed, and it flowed so freaking well.
Not interested.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. We are slightly pressed for time, so I'm going to kind of go through these other questions relatively quickly, but I still want to kind of get your guys' thoughts about it. Before we do that, on here, SKillX, I know this is off topic, but what new animes have you guys been watching lately? Mildewy Cure has suggested By the Grace of God is a good one. Yeah, so there's that. I've been watching Actually, we were talking about it on All Day Anime. The Hidden Dungeon Only I Can Find. I've been watching that. That's a good one. It's definitely very fan servicey harem type stuff. Want to get that out the way. It very much is that. Yeah, but it's been an interesting one. I've been kind of rewatching some animes and all that good stuff. And I know Gravity-Mark has been kind of digging some new animes too, as well getting caught up on. Reading his manga. That's what he's been mainly getting into and everything like that. Let's see. All right, so we just talked about the elevations. What do you guys think that they could have done better? What do you think that they could have had to enhance the gameplay? What were some things that you didn't like? And I'm actually going to start this one. And what up, Ohio in the chat? All right, giddy. So there are two things that I did not like. One thing I still to this day don't like. The other thing I came around to liking it after I started hearing podcasts about it afterwards. The ghosts, the Arbiters of Fate, threw me off for a good portion of the game. I didn't like where they were placed. Eventually, it started making sense of why they were there. Now that I've already listened to other podcasts, beat the game, have more understanding of it, doing actual deep dives with other streamers and stuff like that, I love the Arbiters of Fate now. Like I do now, but before it just was not for me. The second thing that I was really looking forward to, and Emron, which was formerly from Kind of Funny Games, he's now with who is he? He's with somebody else now. But anyway, I was really looking forward to the scene where you wake up in prison and there's blood everywhere, because that was supposed to show that Sephiroth was coming back. So that part was completely replaced. It was not the same. They didn't even go to prison during that area that they typically would have gone to prison. So because that was the moment in the original game, that was the moment where the game became sweet to me. That was the moment where I was just like, what in the world's going on here? That's the moment where I started feeling that mystery. And I was like, and that is also the moment where it became a JRPG into a slight horror game, to where now I'm in the open world and I'm kind of afraid to run into Sephiroth. Because I'm just like, I don't know if I could take this dude. That's how BA Sephiroth is. That dude was dope. I was looking forward to that moment because I was really hoping that they would harp on that inside the remake. Completely skipped over it. It wasn't even there. They did kind of implement their own version of that, but it was not even close.
Oh, you're talking about the Trail of Blood.
Exactly. Because in the original, your whole team, when you're trying to infiltrate Shinra, whole team gets captured. Yeah, whole team gets captured. Everyone gets inside their own prison cells. You have that option of talking to people across their cells, wondering how people are doing, all that good stuff. You go to sleep. All right, you're in a high-tech security facility. High-tech, top of the line security. It's like 100 floors up. You're up there in like floor 9 or something like that, or not 9, but
it's like
60.
Like 60.
Yeah, it's like 60 or something like that. Yeah, it's pretty high up. And then you wake up, and the doors open. You see short shillings on the wall. You see the guards that were guarding the cells dead. You see a full trail of blood that's just kind of leading out into the hallway, and you're wondering where it's at. Lights are off. Lights are flickering. You keep going down. You make sure everyone's okay, because everybody else had been everybody else in general have their doors unlocked too as well. And you're going through. You see even more shillings. You see all these guards just dead. Bodies piling up. Bodies piling up. You want to talk about big numbers there, Ohio. Bodies piling up. Going all the way up. Get to the very top. See President Shinra at his desk, dead with a huge sword sticking out of his back. And then that's when you find out that was the works of Sephiroth. And at that point, as a new gamer into that gaming realm at that time period, you're like, who is this guy?
Not to mention as you are making your ascension while following the trail, you have a really eerie, very empty song playing, and the enemies that you were encountering, which were originally soldier like third class soldier rank minions and other robots and Shinra soldiers, you are now fighting random amalgamations and monsters throughout this entire. So it's like you went from fighting actual military within this facility to then fighting monsters. And normally you would hear, the battle track in the background that would normally get you amped the entire time, even while in battle. All you hear is that really eerie, creepy song.
Do 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 do. Literally was yeah. It was crazy. It was crazy. So I say that was my thing where I was just like, I wish they had implemented that. I was so much looking forward to that, and I know that would have given me chills in a whole different light. So that's my like. I wish that they had added that in there. What about you there, Mildewy? I mean, not Mildewy, Gravity.
In terms of like things that I didn't like, or just kind of cons in general, like part of me still kind of wishes that like it would have been a little bit bigger, just in terms of like what kind of story they told, because I was like looking forward to a little bit more of it. I will say that like something that like I wasn't a huge fan of, which was like the aerial combat, like and like that was something that I wish they would have touched up upon a little bit, or maybe I just didn't see it, but like I really didn't like get a good like glance or kind of like told like how the aerial combat works. So you just kind of have to figure it out, and then you're just kind of like you have to kind of like go back and forth with certain characters and be like, okay, well like this person can get up there, but like this person can't, and so you kind of have to like move your characters around to try to figure that out. And as somebody who really likes the Kingdom Hearts series, I love aerial combat. Like that's one of my favorite things, is just being able to just get up there and just mash people. But I also understand that like this is Final Fantasy VII. Like it's not like that's not like what's going on. But like if anything, like there wasn't too much I was disappointed with the game. Like if anything, it was just like little critiques here and there to kind of like help it a little bit. Just to like really make it feel a little bit more like a full game. Because while I do agree that like the side missions like really made it feel a lot bigger, and then even though like it was only covering like that first like tiny percentage of the game, it still felt like a very full game. There were still things in the game that like I don't know, like I just felt like they were just a little lacking in certain areas, and I wanted it to be a little bit more fleshed out. But again, I think I'm also just maybe being a little impatient, because like I kind of want all those expansions now.
Yeah.
So like maybe that's just where that's coming from.
What about you there, Illis?
I definitely would agree with the Trail of Blood. That was actually one of the big highlighting points that I was anticipating also. That, I mean, yeah, we got our own little variation, and it's like me going through, I was like, oh my gosh, is this when it happens? Oh my gosh, is this when it happens? And then when I got it, I was like, okay, I see it. Not exactly what I was expecting, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
I would have to say the bike combat. I loved that. I loved everything in regards to the bike, but I know also at the same time, like the camera angles, especially when it gets to turns, can get you caught up. I think, and then also having to differentiate, the battle, whether you were doing the up close or the, far reach, for you to like kind of do your like attacks and whatnot. Because both times that I did my bike battles, the fighting the regular enemies was fine, but fighting the boss on the bike was troubling, because they were able to move freely and I was just kind of caught in the angles of the camera, and like my acceleration and braking was not how I wanted it to be done. So like I had to redo those several times. So like the biking, if the biking was a little cleaner, maybe. You know, like you had a little more range when it came to the camera. But I mean, I understand it's like also like a fixed surface kind of deal. But I mean, other than that, that was I mean, that was really it.
Okay.
I did while you were saying that, I did think of one more thing. And this is also like kind of like a small thing that with this like these little moments by themselves, I actually kind of enjoyed these moments, but if anything, my critique is just that they didn't have enough of these moments sometimes. Where like they would have like those little mini games or like those little mini events where you had to like pull the levers at the same time. Or or like oh shoot, there was another one. Oh, like the dance. Like the pull-up bar, like I think that was fine. Like as kind of like its own like mini game that you can just kind of choose to go to whenever you want. But like when it was just kind of like you gotta like pull the levers at the same time, or when you're I keep forgetting it. Like it's here. It's in my head.
Well, they had them in
the original
the dancing.
areas.
It was the dancing reactions where like sometimes like it just kind of felt like they just kind of threw it in there and you were just like, okay, this is just kind of like a one-off thing. Why was it here? Does it need to be here? Because like if you're gonna like include it, like I don't know, like maybe like include like a little bit more of it, like have, or like at the very least like include it in like the story and like have the ability to kind of like go back and like play it as its own thing, as its own like mini game, like whenever you're kind of like just messing around.
Gotcha.
I mean, which potentially with how 7 is, that could be something that can be revisited in a particular place to win money and other items.
Okay. I see what you're saying there. Yeah, because I would actually really like that, especially if they had that at the Golden Saucer like this next time around.
Yeah.
But like I don't know if you guys like how many times you guys messed up like with the pulling of the lever.
I messed up like maybe once or twice.
I'm pretty sure I went through all of the dialogue options that they had for it. And let me tell you, the conversations that they had were hilarious. And I loved it. It was absolutely hilarious. Like just the bantering they had every time they messed up. They're like, all right, we got it this time. And it was just kind of like, I wanted more of that. Like I wanted to see kind of like a little bit more of that bantering.
Okay. I mean, you didn't go up the stairs?
I mean, I did go up the stairs. Oh my, yeah, the stairs. You know what? I was gonna say the stairs. That was probably one of my favorite parts, because like when I was going up the stairs, I was like, are they really having me go all the way up the stairs? Like up every single one? Like it's not gonna be like go up like 5 and then we're just gonna cut to like the top. It's like no, they have you go all the way.
Welcome to 1997.
I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? But like I liked that. And it's just, and I guess it's just like maybe I don't know, maybe I'm just not connecting enough of them together. But it's just like those little bantering moments. I guess like maybe they just didn't resonate with me enough, because like sometimes they like the stairs, it absolutely did. But like I think there are just times where I'm like I want to see like maybe a little bit more implementation of that, because it's kind of just one of those things where it's like, if you're gonna have this feature in there, then that's cool. But like, if you're only gonna use it like once or twice, it's just like, why is it there?
Yeah. So real quick, we only got 12 minutes left, and I got more questions, but I'm gonna pick out the 2 important ones. Okay. My first one is directed for you there, Gravity-Mark 2. Do you think we'll get a Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 announcement this year?
I think so. I'm not quite sure. I know that if it comes like directly from Square Enix, then probably. But if it's gonna come from like PlayStation, I'm not quite sure. Because as we talked about before, like PlayStation has been kind of like silent in terms of like their news. Like they're not always like super like out there. Like they're not like as active like reporting on what they're working on. So they're usually a little bit more like once they have stuff for sure, then yes. I think that especially with Final Fantasy 16 coming out, I think that would be in their best interest to release Final Fantasy 16 and be like, oh, by the way, we're also releasing part 2 of this. Because if anything, to me, that's just more publicity. That's just more marketing and advertising for part 2. I hope that we're going to see a part 2. Because I know that Square's we're already getting Integrate, we're already and we're already getting the Yuffie storyline this June. We're already getting like the mobile game coming out sometime this year. We're also getting what are they calling it?
Ever Crisis.
Ever Crisis. We're in 2022.
Yeah, it's like we get the Battle Royale, and then we're also getting Ever Crisis, which is going to be just going through everything that has solidified the story.
Yeah. First Soldier and Ever Crisis.
Yeah. Because like my thing is that like if they don't announce it this year, then I feel like they're probably gonna like maybe align it a little bit closer to Ever Crisis.
Heard
that. That's just me. I have no idea, but
it's just predictions here. Just predictions. That's fine.
I feel like that would make sense.
What about you, LSB Live? Do you think we're going to get any Final Fantasy Part 2 remake or Final Fantasy 7 remake Part 2 news this year?
I feel like if we do, it's going to be this year. Maybe more so after they've either solidified something with 16 or when they have a for sure date of 16. Because with how they operate, especially, it's like they were heavily working on Kingdom Hearts 3, so we were getting everything Kingdom Hearts 3 news first, and then we were starting to get stuff on the 7. So I think if in terms of how they're doing with how they're operating, I mean we already have everything in regards to the big project with 14, that being something that's going to be coming out in the fall, and with them still doing that, we're still having them working on everything in regards to 16. So I mean, if they do, I feel like it'd be a little sprinkle tie-in, like a little Christmas high. Hey, here's your Christmas present, some news for 7 remake part 2. Otherwise, I think it's going to be something that they're going to be talking about next year, because you got 16 that we still haven't even seen, other than just that E3 trailer. Essentially,
it's coming out this year. All right, trying to hurt me, man. It's coming out this year. You ain't touching my score. You're not touching my score. Mildew and Carrots in the chat talking trash too. He's like, definitely won't be the one for 16. You shut up. All right. Goodness. I'm in the same boat. I think, to be honest with you, you shut up too, Ohio. He says L, hold this cam. I ain't taking no L's. Y'all jerks. But I was about to say though, and this is kind of my whole thing. Here's my whole thing. On PlayStation standpoint, what are the biggest titles that come through PlayStation? We already know Naughty Dog. We already know Sony Santa Monica. Now it's Guerrilla Games. Guerrilla for Aloy and Horizon and all that good stuff. Me personally, I put Square Enix up there. Mm-hmm. And especially having a Final Fantasy 16 console exclusive, that's big. So I would have to put Final Fantasy or Square Enix in that realm. With that being said, Sony has been very silent. All right, so at the beginning or towards the end of 2019, Xbox had showed the Xbox Series X or X, not the S yet, just the X. Everyone's just like, oh, this is what Xbox is doing. Sony, what you're doing. And then Christmas comes. Still nothing from Sony. March comes. Nothing from Sony. Okay. April comes. Nothing from Sony. May? Nothing from Sony. So we're all thinking like, we don't know what this box looks like. We don't know what the games are going to be. All we know is just what's on paper. We just know the SSD. We know some of the specs about the system. We see what the controller looks like. Me and Gravity had this conversation yesterday. You're seeing all this stuff. Where is the console? Where is the games? That's what our focus was at. Sony, what are you doing? June comes, they have a banger of a conference. They reveal the system. Then later on, they have another banger of a conference. They reveal the price. They messed up because they had some good news that they didn't give us, i.e., I mean, we know Spider-Man was going to be a launch title, but Demon Souls Remake, that's a launch title. They didn't announce that. That had to come from Jeff Keighley. There's like a few stuff that was out there that were like potential launch title for the PlayStation 5, and we had to hear it outside of a Sony conference. So we didn't know what that was about, but ultimately that in retrospect, Sony had 2 banger conferences which really pushed the hype level for the rest of 2020. Now, at the end of 2020, you're hearing Game Pass. You're seeing Xbox buy Bethesda. You see them making moves with Discord. You're seeing literally Xbox doing all these juggernaut moves and Sony staying silent. So my thing, a lot of people are just like, oh, Sony's losing, Sony's getting punched, Sony's XYZ, whatever. That might be the case. But also, what if they're waiting until June, having a repeat of history? They come out, they show us the Sony version of Game Pass, if they do that, because that's been talked from Jim Ryan since November. What if they show us new content? I was talking to Gravity about this yesterday. They're actually having a mobile, like Sony's looking into going mobile for some reason. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, but time will tell. But aside from the specs, aside from what Sony's doing, what are some things that will actually help elevate Sony? If they show Remake Part 2, if they show Final Fantasy 16, if they show more gameplay from Horizon Forbidden West, if they show God of War Ragnarok. So that's why for me, as someone that do appreciate and likes PlayStation, I'm not worried about what they're doing until after June if they give us nothing. If they give us nothing in June, all right, I'm going to give myself a Series X. I'm going to give myself an S. I'm still on my PS5. I'm still going to be playing on it a lot. I just recently got a Switch. We already talked about that at the beginning of the show. But I'm not worried about what they're doing until after June. Now, with that being said, does that mean that Square Enix can have their own thing before that? They can. I'm not sure if it's going to be something to where they are contracting that with Sony to like, hey, we'll go ahead and do certain IPs throughout this month, and then the next upcoming months, and then June, bam. Because why is June so important? It's because that was the time period for E3. You know what I mean? That's where the big consoles show off their stuff. That's where they show off their new games. That's where they show off what they've been working on for the past 8 years. So that's why I'm like, okay, I'm very excited for video games altogether. Every single video game console has been outstanding. I am excited for Pokemon Arceus. I am excited for Halo Infinite. I am very excited for Horizon Forbidden West. You know what I mean? But ultimately, again, I'm a Final Fantasy guy. I cannot wait to see what Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2 is going to hold. I can't wait for Final Fantasy 16. I've been talking a lot, so we're going to go to the last question. What are you guys' prediction for Final Fantasy 7 Part 2? Starting with you, Let's Be Live. What is your prediction for this next game? What are some main key points that we're going to see? Give me 3.
I mean, and that's the thing. I know we didn't really get the chance to touch on it. I mean, we could definitely go another half game, but the symbolism that I wanted to touch on for the end when it came to the arbiters of fate was the crossroads. I felt like you crossing through that white light was you at now breaking the mold of what the game originally was. So now, with us breaking out of that, we're no longer held to the constraints of the group now going to Calm and Cloud telling a story of what happened to him 5 years ago. We are now no longer held to the constraints of them going to Junin and, infiltrating the Shinra boat. Because we already had our first Genova encounter in the building.
I kind of want to do that.
The first Genova encounter was in the boat.
I kind of want to do that, yeah.
Like we're no longer held to seeing Barrett's story unfold in regards to Marlene, his best friend, why Scarlet is an actual enemy and not just, this dominatrix that we see in regards to Soldier. Like, because we went through that crossroad and the way the ending was, and us seeing, who we did actually live.
Yep.
We're no longer held to those constraints as to what we originally were expecting. I mean, there's a great deal of iconic scenes. I wanted to see Midgar Zola held stuck up on that stick just before you go through the Mithril Caves. I wanted to see exactly how Chocobo racing was going to be. I wanted to see what Mount Coral looks like.
Yeah.
I wanted to actually travel through the prisons of the desert,
which we still can possibly do, but we're just not held to those restrictions.
It's just no longer going to be in that same fashion.
It still can be.
I mean, it still can be, but with how I feel like the Arbiters of Fate held everything, I feel like Midgar was, hey, this is the game that you guys are expecting, but going through that white light, we are going to be defining this, because the ending of the remake said that all.
You ain't lying. What about you there, Gravity-Mark? Predictions, man. Hit me with it.
So, going back to my boy Zach,
okay.
I have a feeling we're going to be seeing more of Zach. I have a feeling that whether it's through DLC or maybe it's like a side story, at least for me personally, I wouldn't mind having something where like as you're playing part 2, that you kind of like check in on Zach and Cloud and what they're doing on their end, because at the very least, like with that ending, it changes Zach's fates. So he doesn't die at the end, and he's actually able to get Cloud back to Shinra. And so, like, what does that mean? Like, when he's actually able to do that, and he's actually able to carry him back, is Zach gonna have to go on the run still? Like, is Shinra just gonna kind of accept him back? Like, how does that change their story? And are we gonna see some sort of like, maybe as you're playing Cloud, instead of like maybe having those headaches where you're like and having flashbacks, maybe you actually have those moments where you're like he gets a headache, and then you jump in and now you're playing as Cloud while you're kind of like doing stuff with Zach. And so they might kind of splash that in there a little bit, and it kind of might have this dual story kind of telling. Because ultimately, and I know you and I have talked about this, something that I would like to see in the future is kind of like this Final Fantasy VII Remake version of Cloud taken on Zack in some form or another, whether it's like some sort of confusing fight or what have you. I think that would be something that'd be kind of hype. I'd be excited for it. Because that's just two Buster Swords going at it. And especially like with the story that they could kind of tell leading up to that point. Like, because at that point, like maybe Aerith comes in, and then like Zack kind of sees her and Cloud sees her, and then she's like, wait, what? Who? You? Huh? What? And so now there's like there's so much potential there. And especially like with Red 13's storyline too, that I'm really excited to see as well. I'm excited to actually like have like Red 13 actually be like a playable character that you can actually start to customize.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to kind of see what they do with this more open world portion. Like, is it going to be more open world? Is it going to be still kind of like the same kind of like relatively big maps, but like still for the most part walking through hallways? Like, I'm really curious to see what it's going to be like, but I'm more so excited for the story that they're about to tell.
Yeah, because it's
just like Illis B-Lab said, they're no longer held to the constraints of the original story, and I love that they're not. They don't have to be, because now anytime that they do have any similarities to the original story, now it's just a nod to the original fans, like, hey, we didn't forget.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait for part 2 at all. I think that I think there's going to be some relevance still to the original, but I do think that there's going to be some stuff that they're just going to mess with our minds with. They're just going to Dragon Ball Xenoverse us with. Like, I think it's going to be something along the lines like that. I love Dragon Ball Xenoverse, and I really hope that this kind of goes in the same vein to where it's just like, it's still the same concept. There might be some people that live, because that's what we kind of realized at the end of the original remake. There were some people that lived, and then there might be some people that died that you didn't expect there was going to die. Like Barrett, when he got stabbed by Sephiroth. You know what I mean? He died, but the Arbiters of Fate brought him back. Like, I'm very curious to see how this is going to pan out. I think that we're still going to see the big snake. I still think we're going to go to Junin. I think we're still going to go ahead and infiltrate the ship. I would love to infiltrate that ship.
Oh man, that was one of my favorite, because like it was, because just like because I think like for you, like the Trail of Blood was like the initial, like, oh my gosh, you know, like I'm super into this. The fact that you had a repeat on the boat.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in the middle of the water. You're in the middle of the water. And now this time, instead of you only seeing the sword, he is there.
Yep. Yeah, that was insane to me. That was absolutely insane. And like, and just imagine Red 13 trying to stuff himself inside that sailor suit. Like, that is going to be hilarious if they're able to do that, because they gave us, and I think the game does a great job. And I actually have to end with this because I actually have errands I have to run after this, and we're 5 minutes over. But I mean, like, they on the original, they touched points on the parts that were really important. They exposed Johnny more of a character in this game than he was in the original. He was there in the original, but he has so much personality that people think that he's hilarious. You know what I mean? They really, really glowed up Wall Market. They really, really went ahead and gave you the cross-dressed Cloud, and they made a joke out of it afterwards. You know what I mean? They understood what us hardcore Final Fantasy VII Remake fans, or original fans wanted. And they delivered it on a fancy plate, on a fancy platter. You know what I mean? They gave us a 4-course meal. I'm satisfied, and I cannot wait until the next one.
Instead of one bite, we got 2.
Exactly. But I do want to end off with this, because we do have to dip out here. ALWT Live. First and foremost, thank you very much for being on episode 44 of All Things Gaming. Always a pleasure to have you on, man. Where can people find you at?
You guys can find me ALWT Live, everything, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, ALWT Live, on all 3. If you guys want to check in with me, I'm going to be diving into, coincidentally, because we're talking about remakes, and because it's the 9-ball has that game, curse you, I'm going to be doing my best to go through travel through Resident Evil games that I have not had the chance to touch or haven't completed, and that's 5 on my list. So,
nicely done. And yeah, that does it here, guys. Here for episode 44 of All Things Gaming, the Final Fantasy discussion. We definitely have. We should have made this like 17 parts, man. We have so much to talk about still, but time is of the essence. Yeah,
you can do a part 2.
I am down for a part 2. If you guys down for a part 2, I'm down for a part 2. Yeah, but this, make sure you guys are checking this out this Thursday night for Smite Night with me, Mildew Akira. It's the 9-ball and Mildew Akira in Ohio, who's inside the chat. This Sunday is going to be all day anime with me and Gravity-Mark 2. Brings us all the way to Sin segment, which is next Monday with Mildew Akira and TBF Abyss. And then, of course, All Things Gaming next Tuesday. For anyone that is currently playing Final Fantasy 14 online, the update had happened today. Actually, technically happened last night. But now they have it today to where if you have a PS5, you actually can upgrade to the PS5 for free. Try the beta test out for that. Try to see what that's like. See how those fidelity graphics are and those performance modes are. And see how quick those load times are going to be on your PS5. And then, of course, anyone that is on the PS4, you guys are still welcome to join inside that world. I don't think there's any restrictions on that. There's still crossplay. It's fantastic stuff. Good stuff there. Yeah, that pretty much does it for us here, guys. Thank you very much again for tuning in, for listening, for podcast services on our Anchor channel or Spotify. Until next time, everybody, Control, Alt,
Complete.
Peace.